We can provide a custom binding source value provider to do this. This is done using an iValueProvider factory to provide a value provider. I'm going to introduce a session value provider and show you how this is done. I'd like the update quantities model to be able to get the cart ID from the session without me having to manually load that every time I request the cart ID. To do this, we're going to introduce a folder called Value Providers. This will have a session value provider factory that will let us ask for the action context, which is the action that we executed, get the HTTP context and its session. If there are keys available in that session provider, we can create a new instance of our custom session value provider and add this value provider to our value providers collection. And the implementation for the session value provider looks like this. It implements the iBinding source value provider, and this will allow us to check if it contains a prefix or a value based on a key. That would be the cart ID. As you see, we have some validation to ensure that we are specifying an appropriate key. We are then checking if the session contains the cart ID. If it does, we'll create a new value provider result with that value from that session. Put a breakpoint in here. Now we are required to configure this so that our application knows that it can map values from a session into the model. So we're extending the model binding. When we're calling add controllers with views, we can also provide this with some options. We can add a value provider factory. I'm going to pass the session value provider factory so that it knows that it can use this in order for it to create our value provider. Let's rerun the application and see if there's a difference. As I update my cart, we are immediately passed into the session value provider. We're looking for the key cart ID, and will you look at that? Our session contained a cart ID. And just as that, the cart ID property on our model was populated from information that I had in my session. As I continue to update the cart, we can see that the cart ID persists. We can even copy this to the clipboard and share it to a friend. In this case, it runs on a local host, so that wouldn't give them anything. But imagine if this was running in a cloud provider. This is how we persist the state between different requests. If the website was now scaled to different servers, we would have to introduce a distributed cache.